Alright, what's up, guys? It's Joe Bass here, and we are kicking off with our bass lessons 001. Yeah, for those of you that are beginners, yes. I know there are a lot of you out there interested in learning the bass, and a number of people have reached out to me, and I thought of doing this so that um I can reach out to as many of you that are there willing to learn the bass guitar free of charge. Yeah. So all I need you to do is to um make sure that you follow my YouTube channel because I'll be dropping a lot of tutorials for beginners. Yeah, let's kick off. Now, we'll be starting off with the overview of a bass guitar. Yeah, what is a bass guitar? I know some of you out there must have known what a bass guitar is. A number of people don't even know what a bass guitar is. They don't know how to differentiate between the sound of a bass guitar and a lead guitar. So a bass guitar is basically a string instrument. That's the first thing you should know. As you can see, we have I have a number of strings here. This is a 4 string bass guitar. We have 5 strings, 6 strings, and some customized ones. Some people even have 69 strings. Yes, you can check online, you will see it. So this is a 4 string bass guitar. It's a string instrument that uses electromagnetic pickups. These things you can see over here to convert the vibration of this string now into sound. That's why when I play something like this, you can hear it. When I play on a different place, you can hear a different sound. Don't worry, we'll get into all of that. Let's not be in a hurry. So now we have different designs of bass. Yeah, we have what we call the fretless bass, and then the fretful bass. So there are bass that have frets. Most bass come with frets. Now this is a fretted bass. As you can see, this metal-like stuff demarcating. This is it is we call it frets, and we'll still get into that. And then we have the fretless bass. So as in the pictures I've shown, you get to see them. Then we have different ranges of bass. Yeah, particularly a bass has 4 strings. Yes. Then we also have 5 string bass guitar, 6 strings, and so on. But basically, a bass has 4 strings. That is the natural build of a bass. 4 string bass guitar. Now, we have different parts on the bass guitar, and in as much as we have different variations of bass guitars, they still have those similarities, those things that must be common among them for them to be called bass guitar. So we have different brands of bass. We have the Fender bass, we have the Sadowski bass, we have the MTD, and so many designs. You can search them online and you see their differences. But in as much as they are different in design, they still have the same build. They still have major components that are the same. So now let's get started with the parts of the bass guitar. So I'm going to start from the headstock of the bass guitar. As what you can see here, this guy with the star on it. Don't worry, I was the one that put this here. So now this is the headstock of the bass guitar. And on the headstock of the bass guitar, we have the pegs. So these are called the pegs. Now these pegs serve the purpose of tuning the bass guitar. They are majorly for tuning the bass guitar. They are called the tuning pegs. So they are used to tune the strings and at the same time hold the strings here. So you can see that if I loosen this, let me play the string with it being tied. Now if I loosen this, what do you notice? So you notice that there's a change in the sound of the bass guitar. Now that is because I distuned the bass guitar by turning the tuning pegs. So now I've tuned it back in the right order. So that is the function of this tuning peg on the headstock. Now let's come to the neck of the bass. So this long part of the bass that you can see running from this, where my hand is, down to this point where the frets are, it is called the neck. And on this neck we have the fingerboard. So this black thing you are seeing running all the way down here is the fingerboard. The entire thing is called the fingerboard. And then, as I said earlier, these divisions here are called the frets. They are called the frets of the bass guitar. Now, has a standard bass guitar has 24 frets. Yes. Though I said we have fretless bass guitars. Those are the bass guitars without these frets, these demarcations. But definitely there will be what? There will be the fingerboard. Because the fingerboard is where the strings rest on. And as we press the strings on the fingerboard, it produces sound. So if I press it along this way, you notice that as I'm pressing it on the fingerboard and changing my direction, the closer, or let me say the shorter the length of the strings to where the pickups are, the lighter the sound. So think about that. If you have a bass guitar with you, just try it. Try playing on any string. So you see that as you go this way, closer to the pickups. Yes, I'll still talk about the pickups. So if you don't know what the pickup is, hang on for a minute. So the closer you go to the pickups, the lighter the sound is. Then now there's a very, very important part of this bass that we might not be able to see with our naked eyes, but yes, it is inside this bass guitar. Now if you look here, if you look at this headstock, you see that there's something here that has been screwed close. Now there's what we call a truss rod running through the body of this bass guitar. Now that truss rod is very important because without the truss rod, this guitar would have been smashed into two. Now the tension of these strings as they are being tuned is strong enough to break the wood on this bass guitar. That is why that truss rod is needed. So it opposes the force of this string. As these strings are here, they tend to bend the wood this way. So the rod opposes the force so that there will be a balance, and then our bass guitar can last. If not, without that rod, your bass is gone. Now, from here, let's move to the. Okay, I know some of you might be wondering, what are these dots on the bass guitar? Now, these dots are just there to help you, yes, especially as a beginner. Along the way, you see that they are very important. They are to help you know where you are on the bass guitar, and they are to help you master your fretboard. That's why a beginner, you cannot just dare to carry a fretless bass guitar and say you want to play. You will just lose Otilo. So now, sorry for the Yoruba, I'm not a Yoruba boy. Now, if you look at this place, you see that there are two dots here. When they're just a single dot running from this to this to this, and then two dots here. So I'm going to explain that in the next chapter. So, but now let's continue with the parts of the bass guitar. So we have the body of the bass now, which is the third part of the bass guitar. So you can see this is the body of the bass guitar, this big wood frame here. Now this frame here, you can see how it is designed to rest on the legs. Yeah, if I'm sitting down, it can rest on my legs comfortably, and it can make me comfortable. Though you can see some crazy designs of bass guitar online. People just go and design some crazy things, and yeah, it's good for them though. Now, on this body of the bass now, okay, we have what we call the bridge. Now, if you can look at this, the camera above, this is called the bridge of the bass guitar. Let me take it closer so that you can have a closer look of it. Now, this is the bridge of the bass guitar. Now, this bridge is a metallic material that holds the string in place. You can see that without this bridge here, tuning these strings will be useless because it needs something to support it here. And you can see that it holds the strings in place so that when tuning the strings, we can have enough tension on the strings. Now, another function of this is that you can use it to adjust the height of the strings. So if your strings are too high, There are some people that maybe you just get to pick a bass guitar and you see that the strings are very high, and for you to play it means you have to apply more force to press it down, and in that process you can easily hurt your fingers. So understanding this can help you adjust your bass guitar strings. Yes. So that is the function of this bridge. And for a standard bass, the scale length, yes, the scale length is what we call the length from the knot. Now I forgot to talk about this. This is called the knot of the bass. If you observe closely, you can see that there's something here that is holding the strings between the head stock and the neck of the bass. This, it demarcates the strings proportionally. Yes, it gives an even gap between the strings as it runs to the pegs. So now the distance between this knot and the bridge is what we call the scale length, and for most bass, standard bass, it is usually between 33 to 35 inches. So that is just for your knowledge though. Now back to the body of the bass, which is this blue and black guy that I've designed here. Now um apart from the bridge, we have the pickups, which I said I was going to talk about earlier. Now these pickups are like one of the most important parts of the bass guitar. Yes, one of the most important parts of the bass guitar, because this is what converts this sound here you can hear. Without this pickup, when I play this bass guitar, you won't be able to hear an amplified sound, because it picks the tiny sound from this. It has magnetic coils inside of it that helps it to convert this vibration into, or to amplify, yes, this little sound that is produced by vibrating the strings into larger sound that you can hear, as you can hear. Now that is the sole purpose of the pickups, and we have different types of pickups. Yeah. So for a Fender bass now, you can see some with the single coil bass, single coil pickup. You can see some with the half or split coil. Yeah, the split coil. Now then we have the hamburger, and we have so many different types of pickups. Yes. So a very good pickup will give you a very good bass. For now, I'm still managing this my bass guitar, so it's not that it's not a crazy bass guitar, as you can hear from the tone. I'm just managing it. So but we'll get there. Then we have the knobs. So these are called the knobs. You can see that these buttons here, these button like stuff, they are called the knobs, and they are linked to the electric part of the bass guitar. That's why a bass guitar is an electric instrument. So these knobs have major functions. So majorly in every bass guitar we have the master volume knob. So the master volume knob is responsible for the general volume of the bass guitar. So without it coming on, when I play, you won't be able to hear anything. As you can see, I'm striking the strings but can't hear anything until I turn on my master volume. So that is the function of the master volume. Then we have the pan control. The pan control is responsible for blending between the output of the front pickup and the back pickup. That is for bass that have two pickups like this one. So we have the front pickup here and the back pickup. So the front pickup, we can call it the neck pickup because it's closer to the neck, and then the one behind, we can call it the bridge pickup because it's closer to the bridge. So it blends the volume, or sorry, it blends the output rather of the bass guitar. So if I would like to explain, I would like to illustrate this to you, but this is my bass guitar. As I told you, I'm managing it. So you can see how the sound was moving from so I'm sure that as I turned that on, you were hearing some differences in the sound as I increased the knob. But for this knob, it's actually better you put it in the central position so that it can balance between the two pickups and you can have an even sound. Then uh, we have the onboard equalizer. Now this is not for every bass. Yes, some bass guitars have limited. Yes, like this my bass guitar now is very limited. It's a passive bass guitar. Yes, I forgot to tell you about this. We have an active bass guitar and a passive bass guitar. Now, an active bass guitar is one that requires an onboard battery to power the electronics. So, as you know, this is an electrical instrument. So, most active bass guitar that you can see, they need something external to power the electronics, and that's why you see that most times they can drive more than the passive bass guitar. They can drive more than the or these days we have bass guitars that don't require battery but they can be on the active mode, and putting it on the active mode you see that it drives more than on the passive mode. That's that for that. So those are the major um knobs we have on the bass guitar. So as I said, the onboard equalizers. So we can have the treble, the middle, the low. So depending on the bass guitar, you can have controls for increasing your low, for increasing your high, for whatever you want to do. If you have a very good bass guitar, I challenge you to play around with the knobs and see how it produces different sound by turning and reducing some of the knobs. I think when you play with your bass guitar, you understand it better. Yeah, and get the sound that you feel is best for you. Now, with this, we have come to the end of the overview of a bass guitar, and I believe that you all have been able to grab something from this. I'm sorry that this video is very long, but yeah, because it's an introduction to what a bass guitar is, yes, it had to be this long so that you can get everything in detail form. So now I just need you to support me by subscribing to my YouTube channel and following and clicking on the notification button so that when I drop a new video you will be aware of it. So see you next time.